Imagine buying a car you love, taking care of it, and still watching it die at just 70,000 miles. Not because of an accident, not because the engine was weak, but because you skipped a single fluid change that almost nobody talks about. And when that happens, the bill isn't a few $100. We're talking four, five, even $7,000 just to get it running again. Now, here's the shocking part. That killer fluid isn't your engine oil, and it's not coolant either. In fact, most owners never think about it until it's too late. And by then, the damage is permanent. But that's not the only silent car killer. There are fluids hiding under your hood right now that break down in secret, quietly corroding parts, overheating systems, and setting you up for massive repair bills. Today, I'm exposing the ones that mechanics know ruin cars the fastest. And at the very end, I'll reveal the 5 everyday driving habits that destroy cars even quicker than bad fluids. If you're guilty of even one of these, you'll want to stop today. So let's start with the king of fluids, the one everyone thinks they're doing right. But most people are actually destroying their engines with every time they change it. Everyone calls engine oil the lifeblood of a car, and that part's true. Without it, you've got nothing but raw metal grinding against itself, ripping your engine apart from the inside. But here's the catch. Most people still mess this up, even when they think they're doing everything right. I've seen engines so starved for oil that the crankshaft bearings literally welded themselves to the journals. At that point, forget about saving it. You're looking at a full rebuild or an outright replacement. And the worst part? These disasters don't come from never changing the oil. They happen because people cut corners. Some drain the oil cold, leaving sludge stuck in the pan. Others forget the little crush washer on the drain plug, which causes a slow leak that nobody notices until the dipstick is bone dry. Even worse, I've seen brand new filters blow off because someone left the old gasket stuck to the block. The engine fires up, the oil dumps out instantly, and the car's done before you can even react. And don't fall for the myth that synthetic oil is some kind of miracle fluid that lasts forever. Oil breaks down from heat, time, and contamination, no matter how expensive the brand is. Extended intervals sound nice on paper, but every mile you push past your service schedule is another mile of risk. The fix is simple but precise. Always warm up the engine first so sludge actually drains. Always replace the washer. Always double check the filter seat. Torque everything to spec instead of cranking it down by hand. Do those small things, and your engine will thank you with every mile. Skip them, and you're quietly shaving years off its life. But oil isn't the only silent killer under your hood. There's another fluid that people think is harmless, but neglecting it cooks your engine from the inside out. Most people think coolant is just there to keep the needle out of the red on hot days, but that's only part of the story. Coolant is your engine's temperature control, rust protection, and water pump lubricant all in one. And when you skip it, you're setting up a chain reaction of damage that doesn't show itself until it's far too late. I've seen owners top off their radiators with plain tap water because they thought it was close enough. Big mistake. The minerals in tap water cling to the inside of the radiator tubes and form scale, like hardened plaque in your arteries. That scale traps heat, turning your cooling system into an oven. And in winter, that same water expands as it freezes, cracking the block from the inside. Once that happens, you're not topping off anymore. You're replacing the entire engine. Coolant also carries additives that fight off corrosion. But here's what most people don't realize. Those additives wear out. Leave coolant in too long and it turns acidic. Instead of protecting your radiator and heater core, it starts eating them alive. I've pulled radiators where the metal fins literally disintegrated in my hands, crumbling like burnt paper. And don't get me started on mixing coolants. Green, orange, pink, they're not interchangeable. Mixing types creates a thick sludge that clogs passages and kills circulation. Even if you drain it, skip flushing the heater core, or fail to bleed the system, air pockets can form and your engine overheats even though the radiator is full. The rule is simple. Use the right coolant, flush it on schedule, and replace hoses before they bulge or crack. Do that and your engine runs cool, clean, and strong. Skip it and you'll cook your car from the inside out without even realizing it. And if coolant can quietly cook an engine, brake fluid can do something even worse. Make your brakes vanish completely when you need them most. Ask most car owners about brake fluid and they'll shrug. It just sits in the reservoir, right? How could it go bad? Here's the truth. Brake fluid is a ticking time bomb if you ignore it. Unlike oil or coolant, your brake reservoir isn't sealed like a jar of pickles. It has to breathe because every time you press the pedal, the fluid moves through the lines. And with every breath, a little moisture sneaks in. The problem? Brake fluid is hygroscopic. It loves to soak up water from the air. Fresh T4 fluid boils at around 450 degrees Fahrenheit, but after just 2 years, tests show it's often holding 3 to 4% water. That little bit of moisture drops the boiling point to around 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Slam your brakes on a mountain road or during an emergency stop, and that heat is enough to boil the fluid. Suddenly, you've got vapor pockets in your brake lines, and the next time you push the pedal, it either feels spongy, or worse, it sinks to the floor and nothing happens. And that's only half the story. Moisture also corrodes calipers, wheel cylinders, and master cylinders from the inside out. I've seen brake pistons eaten alive by rust, failing long before the pads ever wear out. That's why every major manufacturer, Ford, Toyota, Mercedes, BMW, you name it, recommends flushing brake fluid every 2 years. Ignore it, and you're betting your entire car and your life on luck. The good news? A simple flush restores your brake's bite and keeps corrosion at bay. It's cheap, fast, and one of the smartest safety moves you can make. And while losing your brakes is terrifying, there's another system that can fail quietly. One that makes steering your car feel like wrestling a tank. Most people never even think about power steering fluid. It's out of sight, out of mind, until one day the steering wheel feels like it weighs 100 pounds, or the pump starts screaming like a siren every time you turn it. By then, the damage is already done. Here's what happens. Power steering fluid isn't just oil. Over time, it breaks down from heat and collects tiny particles shed by the pump, seals, and hoses. That dirty fluid keeps circulating, grinding away at the steering rack, and chewing up the pump from the inside. It's like sandpaper in a bottle, slowly destroying everything it touches. The fix is ridiculously simple, but almost no one does it. Regularly flushing the system keeps the fluid clean, the steering smooth, and the pump whisper quiet. I've got a customer with over 300,000 miles on his original steering pump. The secret? We never let the fluid go bad. But here's the catch. You can't just dump in whatever bottle looks close enough. Some cars require dedicated power steering fluid, while others, like many Hondas, actually need specific ATF. Get it wrong, and instead of saving the system, you'll swell the seals and kill it even faster. Done right, a flush is easy. Clean the reservoir cap before opening it, because dirt in there is death. Suck out the old fluid with a pump or baster, refill with fresh fluid, and cycle the wheel from lock to circulate. Repeat until the fluid stays clean. That's it. Cheap insurance for a system you depend on every time you turn the wheel. But as bad as a failed steering system is, it's nothing compared to the one fluid that has killed more cars and more wallets than blown engines or electrical nightmares combined. If there's one fluid you can't afford to ignore, it's transmission fluid. This stuff is the lifeblood of your gearbox. It doesn't just lubricate, it cools, it powers hydraulic shifts. It makes the difference between a smooth drive and a total mechanical meltdown. The scary part? Most people never touch it. They believe the marketing line, lifetime fluid. But here's the truth. Lifetime doesn't mean the life of your car. It means the lifetime the manufacturer expects before you trade it in or scrap it. And if you plan on keeping your car long-term, that so-called lifetime fluid becomes a ticking time bomb. I've seen this play out too many times. A customer ignored their transmission for years. By the time they came in, the fluid was dark and burnt. The unit was already on its last legs. A rebuild? $4,000, sometimes $6,000. For many people, that's the end of the car right there. Fresh ATF should be bright red and smell clean. That's a healthy transmission. Brown fluid means you're entering the danger zone. Black fluid? That's the death sentence. At that stage, adding fresh fluid can actually speed up the failure because the detergents break loose all the built-up debris. That's why smart mechanics drop the pan, replace the filter, clean the magnet, and actually inspect what's inside. If the magnet looks furry with metal, you know the wear's real. And don't fall for 100,000-mile claims. For normal driving, every 30 to 40,000 miles is safer. If you tow, drive in heavy traffic, or live in hot climates, cut that down to 20 to 25K. It's cheap insurance for one of the most expensive parts of your car. Because here's the truth. Transmission fluid is either your car's cheapest protection or its most expensive failure. But even that isn't the end of the story. There are still 2 more drivetrain fluids most people never service. And when they fail, your car literally tears itself apart from the inside. If transmission fluid is the star of the show, differential and transfer case fluids are the forgotten side characters. Until they fail, and suddenly they're the villains. Your differential is the unsung hero that lets your wheels spin at different speeds when you turn. Inside, it's a set of gears under constant load, bathed in the thick gear oil. Over time, that oil loses its protective additives, thins out, and can't keep the metal parts separated. When that happens, friction builds, heat rises, and those gears start grinding each other into dust. I once had a customer come in with a faint whining noise. By the time he finally addressed it, the differential had chewed itself alive. The repair? $2,000 he could have avoided with a $60 fluid change. Now, if you drive a 4x4 or all-wheel drive vehicle, your transfer case is just as critical. It's the middleman, splitting power between the front and rear axles. Inside are chains, gears, and clutches that rely on their own specific fluid. Let it degrade and you'll feel jerky engagement. Hear loud clunks when shifting into 4-wheel drive. Or worst of all, a seized transfer case. That kind of failure doesn't just leave you stranded, it leaves you stranded expensively. I've seen off-roaders stuck halfway up a mountain trail because they ignored transfer case fluid. The tow bill alone was painful, never mind the $3,500 replacement. Manufacturers love to call these lifetime fluids, but that's just marketing spin. The truth? For heavy use, towing, off-roading, hauling loads, you should change differential and transfer case fluids every 30,000 miles. For lighter use, 60 to 100,000 miles is the max. Push beyond that, and you're gambling with some of the most stressed parts of your drivetrain. The service itself is simple but messy. You pull the fill bolt, and the fluid should be right at the hole. If it's low, something's leaking. If it's dark, burnt, or full of metallic glitter, you caught a problem early. Limited slip differentials even need special additives. Skip that, and the clutches chatter themselves apart. And here's a mechanic's truth. This is the worst smelling fluid in the whole car. Once you've smelled burnt gear oil, you'll never forget it. It might not be glamorous, but keeping these fluids fresh means your drivetrain stays quiet, smooth, and strong. Neglect them, and you'll be paying thousands for parts most people don't even realize exist. And believe it or not, we're still not done. Even after covering the big fluids, there are smaller ones hiding in plain sight. Overlooked fluids that can take your car down just as fast. By now, we've covered the fluids every driver thinks they know. Oil, coolant, transmission. But here's the mechanic's secret. Your car has even more fluids quietly working in the background, and neglecting these can leave you stranded overnight. Let's run through them rapid fire. Diesel exhaust fluid, DEF. If you drive a modern diesel, DEF isn't optional. It's injected into the exhaust to cut emissions. Run out and most trucks will throw warnings. cut power, or even refuse to restart. That means a simple oversight can leave you stranded on the side of the highway. Clutch fluid. Drive a manual? Here's a surprise. Your clutch uses hydraulic fluid, often the same type as brake fluid. It absorbs moisture, loses pressure, and suddenly your pedal goes limp. I've seen it happen in traffic. 1 second smooth shifting, the next second you can't get into gear at all. Air conditioning refrigerant. You might think AC is just about comfort, but it's also about protecting expensive components. Low refrigerant makes the compressor overwork until it overheats and seizes. Replacing it can cost $500 to $1,000. A simple pressure check could save that. Fuel and fuel system cleaners. Gasoline isn't set it and forget it. Poor quality fuel clogs injectors, stresses the pump, and weakens combustion. Run your tank to fumes and you're sucking in sludge from the bottom. A $10 cleaner every few thousand miles can save you from a $600 injector replacement. These fluids don't grab headlines, but skip them and you'll feel the pain. In your wallet and on the side of the road. But here's the real twist. Even if you maintain every single fluid perfectly, your car can still die young. Why? Because of 5 everyday driving habits that quietly destroy cars even faster than bad maintenance. And chances are that you're guilty of at least one of them. You can baby every fluid in your car, service it on time, and still ruin it early if you fall into these 5 traps. Ignoring warning lights. Those dashboard icons aren't decorations. They're your car's SOS signals. Ignore the check engine light, and what could have been a $50 sensor turns into a $5,000 repair. Even minor lights like ABS or tire pressure can snowball into disasters if you blow them off. Delaying small repairs. That tiny coolant drip you keep topping off? That faint squeal from the belt? Small problems never fix themselves. They grow quietly until one day your engine overheats or your belt snaps at 70 miles per hour. A $30 fix today becomes a $1,500 bill tomorrow. Overloading the vehicle. Your car isn't a moving truck. Haul more than it's rated for and you're overstraining the suspension, overheating brakes, and cooking the transmission. You won't see the damage right away, but every overload is another nail in the coffin. Poor tire care, bald, mismatched, or underinflated tires aren't just unsafe, they're car killers. They ruin suspension parts, wreck alignment, and on AWD cars, they can even damage the drivetrain. Check pressures monthly, rotate regularly. It's the cheapest maintenance you'll ever do. Aggressive driving, hard launches, late braking, and cornering like you're on a racetrack might feel fun, but it's brutal on every system in your car. Engines overheat, brakes fade, transmissions slip, and tires melt away. Driving like that doesn't just waste gas, it wastes years off your car's life. These 5 habits kill more cars than blown head gaskets ever will. Break them now and your car could outlive you. Here's the bottom line. Most of the fluids we've talked about cost less than a nice dinner out to replace. But neglect them, or keep up these bad habits, and you're looking at repair bills that rival the cost of another car. The difference between a car that dies at 70,000 miles and one that lasts $500,000 is simple. Knowledge, discipline, and a little attention. And if you want your car to really last, I've got you covered. In my next video, I'll reveal the exact driving habits that make cars push past 500,000 miles without constant repairs. Click the video on screen now, because that one tip could add years to your car's life.